Hey, and what's up? Dena Movie Views here, asking, what are you watching? Well, today I am watching One Night in Miami. And this movie is starring Aldous Hodge as Jim Brown, Leslie Odom Jr. as Sam Cooke, Kingsley Ben Adir as Malcolm X, and Muhammad Ali, played by actor Eli Green. One Night in Miami is the directorial debut of actress Regina King. Now let's get into it. The film is the movie adaptation of the 2013 play from Kemp Powers. And the setting takes place on February 25th, 1964, in a small Hampton hotel room after Muhammad Ali has won the heavyweight boxing title against Sonny Liston. And this was his first title, heavyweight champion of the world. Now, this takes place in the 60s, which we know was a turbulent time. And this was a time when black men and black women were boldly open to making changes here in America in the lives of black people. The treatment was just absolutely horrible in this society. It was a time when black men were fighting against the system of racial inequality and injustice for blacks here in this country. These four powerful black men were popular for different reasons, of course, and in their own rights, they were very successful in what they were doing. They came together for this moment in time and on this particular night in Miami. Now, in this movie, there were separate events that occurred leading up to this get together between the brothers, because this movie is mostly dialogue and uses flashbacks to show events within each of their lives. One of the events depicted was a match with Muhammad Ali, where he was fighting British boxer Henry the Hammer Cooper. And in the third round, Ali, who was known at that time by the name Cassius Clay, he punched the gash over his eye. But in the following round, even though he danced and joked around while he was whooping his butt, Cooper landed a blow on his jaw that caused him to fall against the ropes, and the fight was stopped. Then there was another event that showed legendary singer Sam Cooke performing at the Copacabana that was filled with these white attendees that were none too pleased with seeing a black man perform. Even though Sam Cooke had the number one hit, some of those Caucasians got up and walked out. They were appalled to see a black man. I think his intent was to win over a white audience, but he bombed that night. And even though he went on to have a number one hit, he bombed that night. Another event was when they showed Jim Brown, who is played by Aldous Hodge, in his hometown of St. Simons, Georgia. It's an island. He was visiting with what I assume to be a long-time Caucasian family friend, and they were on a large screened porch. And the man's name, they called him Mr. Carlton. But Mr. Carlton in this movie is played by the actor Beau Bridges. Mr. Carlton was happy to see Jim Brown. So he knocked on the door. They were just thrilled to see him because his granddaughter met him. She, of course, ran and got her granddad, Mr. Carlton. He greets him with a smile. He gives him a handshake and praises his amazing record in the NFL and congratulates him. And then he offers him lemonade. This was the funniest part of the whole movie to me. Now, during the conversation, Mr. Carlton, granddaughter brings the guy's lemonade and speaks to her grandfather after she gives him the lemonade. And she's reminding him that he was supposed to move a bureau that she had in one room to the other. So Mr. Carlton gets up to go into the house, and Jim Brown follows him and says, "You need to move furniture," and offers to help him move the furniture. And Mr. Carlton turns to him and say, "You know we don't allow niggas in the house." And Jim Brown is shown standing at the front door looking in disbelief at what he just said to him. To me, that was the funniest part of the movie. Sorry, I spoiled it for you. The next event shows the Honorable Elijah Muhammad speaking on TV. And this TV was in the home of Malcolm X. That was again played by Kingsley Ben-Adir, and his wife Betty, which was played by Joaquina Kalakango. And they were sitting in the living room and they looked up. They're having this discussion in reference to Malcolm planning some secret plot to start his own group and his intentions to pull Muhammad Ali into this separate group that he wants to make of the Nation of Islam. So there are spoilers here. If you're listening, you don't want to hear about the movie, you might want to cut it off. I'm not going to give all of it, just most of it. But what caught my attention is that Betty, his wife, kept asking him about Louis X. And she was asking him, what did he say? And I have to be honest, when I heard this, it made me question the intentions of this movie, the director and the writer, to be quite frankly. Clearly, the Louis X was a reference to Minister Louis Farrakhan, and it kind of made me go, And it made me think there was a message in this movie. I was thinking, are they really trying to send some type of message? I don't know. But that was my first impression. But I did not feel the chemistry between the actors. The one that played Betty Shabazz, I didn't feel that connection with her and the character that played Malcolm. They weren't in a lot of scenes, but I wasn't feeling that character. But I could tell she was acting. And I like to have that feeling that I'm just peeking into your everyday life. It just didn't seem really authentic to me. And yep, that's my opinion. But I have to admit, I was quite intrigued with the closeness of the four friends. And it was really beautiful for me to see the four of them interacting. I like it when black men can get together and just enjoy each other's company. And so I'm watching this movie and I'm thinking to myself, because I saw pictures when I was a little girl of Malcolm X in different settings, and I always wanted to know why he had the camera or whatever, what was going on in those pictures. And it's kind of gave me an inkling. Because you know how you look at pictures and you're wondering what was happening? That's what I did with a lot of pictures that I see and I have seen of Malcolm X. And this explained a lot for me. So it kind of cleared it up a little bit. And I can only imagine what would or could have happened if Malcolm and Sam were not murdered and taken away from us, especially in the manner in which they were. Having said that, I am going to give this movie 2 stars. Now, this is 2 stars out of 5 for me. And why 2 stars? Because I have to say, the wardrobe and the retro furniture in this movie I thought was fascinating. It was quite impressive to me. I was looking beyond the characters around like everybody else would do, and I was trying to look at the decor and the hairstyles and the cars, and the visual I think really was on the money. It just made me feel like it really represented what the 60s must have looked like. No, I wasn't actually there, but I think from pictures that I've seen, it really captured it. So to me, that was a plus. Now, I did not find it had a lot of substance. It just seemed like a lot of fluff for me. And it just seems like, to me, this is my opinion once again, they were just a bunch of guys wasting time. Of the four men, Jim Brown is the only one that is still alive today. And although the meeting was said to have actually occurred, the conversation was definitely fictionalized. I really think that the writer was a bit biased with the conversation and dialogue between the four men about what he think may have occurred. It is just not something that I myself would expect to come from those black men. Of course, that is his idea, as is the nature of art. But the conversation consisted, to me, it just had such a bias. I could tell what the writer was thinking, what his mentality was from the words that he put into those characters' mouths. I could tell what he was thinking. But I was thinking to myself, what if these four men got together and they weren't fighting and arguing because Muhammad Ali had won? Perhaps they were just chillaxing. Maybe they were partying or just having meaningful discussions. Or perhaps it was just a conversation where they all walked away with a positive plan, a positive agenda. We just don't know. Now, I personally felt that the dialogue was flawed. I did not like the way in which Malcolm X was portrayed in this movie. It almost made him look as if he was almost jealous or like he were beneath the other three men. And when they were arguing, in fact, he was arguing with Sam Cooke, and Sam Cooke said, which of the four of us doesn't fit in this group? And I'm saying, is this some kind of remark about classism? I didn't like that. I felt that was a bit unnecessary and almost ignorant to a certain degree, because this was during the time of Jim Crow laws, and it meant black people were not even allowed to stay in certain locations in Miami Beach, including celebrities, athletes, and musicians. Now, even though Cook had a spot at what was called the Fontainebleau Hotel, it was only because one of his managers, who was white, booked it. And this was supposed to be an uppity hotel. Now, Malcolm was trying to urge them to connect their popularity with freedom and black consciousness. So I felt like this was, because he was trying to do this, it was depicted in a negative light. It was as if the writer may have had an agenda, a preconceived notion that was less in favor of the struggle or the passion that Malcolm had for his own people and the black struggle in general. Now, the bickering came from Malcolm. He was just trying to convince the men to join him and help to pursue social consciousness for black people. Another example was he was fussing with the guys. They were doing a lot of bickering, and one of the guys said he was upset with Malcolm because Malcolm responded to JFK's assassination as the chickens come home to roost. And this movie implied that Muhammad Ali was coercing to come into the nation and really did not want to be a part of it, and just kind of tricked or enticed by Malcolm. It was, I don't know, it seems like Muhammad Ali was portrayed as young and naive. But the part with the chickens coming home to roost, the guy says, my mother cried when this happened. I'm like, where is all this coming from? Furthermore, I could not understand the conflict with Sam and Malcolm. These were said to be long-term friends. But there was so much rivalry and resentment in their conversations, in my opinion. And I kept thinking, where is this coming from? It's almost seemed like they were trying to make it seem as if Malcolm was jealous of their success. Now, throughout the movie, Malcolm was noticing that there were these white people following him. They were agents. Every time he would look back or look out the window, he could see them. But near the ending of the movie, it showed him looking out the window, and his bodyguards, who are the FOI, that were meant to protect him, he actually saw one of them giving them some information. So it was showing them in cahoots. And I just kept thinking, what kind of message is this movie really trying to send? It was sending a message, and I don't feel it was a positive one myself. And to be perfectly honest, I think the writer could not appreciate the fight for freedom that Malcolm had in mind and was trying to encourage them to have. That, I guess that was maybe that was what he was trying to portray, that it was too much. But it made him seem like he was easily intimidated, miserable, or jealous of those other men. And I didn't appreciate that part of it. Now, One Night in Miami did show some of what happened to each of the 4 men after that famous night. It shows Sam Cooke performing his song that was seemingly inspired by what Malcolm and him had experienced. The song called There's a Change Is Going to Come. And Muhammad Ali is giving his name by Elijah Muhammad. Jim Brown starts acting, and Malcolm X's house catches on fire. Now the rest of this is movie history, and you'll have to watch the movie to find out all of the other details. Now this movie is directed by Regina King, and it is an adaptation of Kemp Powers' play. This is her first debut, her first movie as a director. It's called One Night in Miami. It is rated R, and if you want to check this movie out, you can do so because it is currently streaming on Prime TV. Now this has been Dena Movie Views. Like, share, and comment, and remember, it's my view. What are you watching?